Welcome to Expert Matters, where we bring you insights from the best minds in the industry. Today, we have a guest who wears many creative hats, Aman Jain. By day, he is a creative head, shaping brands with powerful storytelling. By night, he is best-selling author, weaving thrilling tales of crime, mystery, politics, and so many more. From crafting viral marketing campaigns to writing edge of the seat novels, Aman has mastered the art of storytelling across industries. So, if you're a student curious about branding, content strategy, or even becoming an author while managing a full time career, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome, Aman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for the warm introduction.
Aman, can you please help us understand about your journey so that we can get an idea of how to and how many questions to ask you?
Sure. So, by my educational qualifications, I'm an engineer, and I'm one of the lucky or maybe unlucky ones who dropped out of engineering at a very unfortunate time. And in my case, it was because I wrote my first book when I was in the first year of engineering, and by by sheer luck or by the content and quality of the novel, it really took off. And I thought, okay, while I could be a poor engineer, but I can be a damn good writer. And that's why I decided that I can pursue writing full time. But writing comes with its own challenges. Unlike other countries where writing can be pursued as a full time career, I feel in India it's still a very nascent journey. One cannot just be writing unless you're writing for films or you're writing for TV shows. Books happen once in 2 years or maybe once in 20 years when you have a great idea. And that's why I fused into advertising because that's the closest coinciding career for a writer. And I started off my journey doing brand strategy. And obviously, my writing skills got better with time. So my peers and bosses suggested that I do creative writing, which is for advertising full time. And that's what I've been doing so far. Yeah.
I mean, you have switched your career. Let's say you have transitioned your career a lot of times. How did you switch or transition from teaching English to leading a creative team now?
Yeah, so I'll be very honest. I mean, I had no clue that there is something. Obviously, I'd seen a lot of ads and I've loved ads. And especially in our country, ads are everywhere. And now globally, ads are everywhere. So I kind of knew that there's a team and there's some thought behind advertising, but I did not know how it works. So when I was teaching back in Jodhpur in JEET Institute of Engineering and Technology, one of my students approached me to do brand strategy or marketing for his papa's firm. So I met his father, and he explained to me that they had a agency on board, and they, messed up with them, and he wanted me to take over. So that's when I got exposed to the entire, technicality of how this works. And ever since, I've loved it, and I hope I can add as much value to the advertising world as much as I can to creative writing.
Amazing. And what helped you to move from writing to brand strategy later on?
So yeah, like I said, it's a very natural transition. So the best analogy I can give you is, let's say a serial entrepreneur, right? The fundamentals remain the same. The business fundamentals for an entrepreneur remain the same. He could be a fintech entrepreneur and then might start an FMCG entrepreneur venture next. So the fundamentals remain the same. Same happened to me. The fundamentals of writing remain the same. The quantum of which you use your writing skills, that changes.
Correct. Also, I have a question. There are so many jobs, so many traditional marketing roles in the industry, and especially in advertising. Why did you choose creative leadership role over traditional marketing roles?
Yeah, so thanks to my boss at my first job back in Bombay, I would definitely like to give him a shout out. His name is Pratik Singla, and he's been the best teacher I've ever had. And like they say, your first boss pretty much dictates your career. So lucky for me, I met Pratik, and it was a free-flowing organization. So I was a little kid, and then he took me in and he told me, do this, do this, do this, do that. And I did all four of those things he looked at what I was good at, and he thought I'd be good with brand strategy, which is what
Mm-hmm.
I started with. And
Okay.
it is one of those math-led verticals. So it's got a lot of formula and mathematics and bunch of related stuff. Eventually, as I grew out of strategy, and I thought it would be great to also see your strategy in action. That's when I decided to transition into writing.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very fancy to hear a designation of a creative head. I'm talking to a creative head of a company.
Yeah.
But what does a creative head actually do?
Yeah, it is obviously fancy on LinkedIn and at dinner table conversations, but it's anything but.
Mm-hmm.
So creative director, so all pieces of communication, and this is the simplest definition I can give.
Mm-hmm.
Every piece of communication that goes out of a company, whether it's a sales deck, it's an ad, it's a billboard or anything, a creative director's fingerprints are there on all of those assets. So creative
Mm-hmm.
director basically dictates the entire strategy, the creative strategy, and then makes sure that it is executed as per the strategy that he had or the team had. Right? It's
Understood.
creative quality ideation and creative quality control.
Understood. Aman, you seem to be a very creative person. You like writing, you like reading, you like to do a lot of things all together. And we are all familiar about the corporate environment. How do you keep your creativity alive in corporate branding?
So okay, a very interesting question. I think what I do from 5 to 9 decides and dictates how my 9 to 5 goes. So most of your creative energy comes from outside of work, right? Whether you're with people, whether you're going on a trip or doing something else, anything, even sitting in your room blankly staring at the wall. That's your hard work. That's your preparation. And in the
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5, the 8 to 9 hours that you put into work, that's the actual vomit. That's the creative vomiting that you do.
I don't think we can define it any better.
Yeah.
What is the most important skill for a career in content and branding? Because a lot of young professionals, they are interested, they have that creative gist in them, but they don't know what to do about their career because they have entered into corporate and now they have no direction or nobody to guide them. So, you being a guiding force today, what is the most important skill which you advise that these students should pursue or maybe focus on while building a career in content and branding?
Okay. Again, a very interesting and excellent question. So there are two parts to this. One is the hard skill, right? Hard skill could be visual design or uh, let's say SEO optimization or one of those things. So there, obviously, if you get training, you can be great at it. But for a career in, let's say, hardcore creativity, and that is not limited to advertising or marketing, that could be filmmaking, novel writing, or any of those likes. The core skill is observation. You need to be so observant in your everyday life that you find the interesting in the mundane, right? Your ability to observe, absorb, and reproduce things is what would make the biggest difference.
Okay, understood. And what about the tools and platforms? Do you use any specific softwares or tools or platforms as a creative person?
Yeah, I mean, everybody who remotely knows me would know that I'm the biggest uh, presentation guy there could be. Yeah. I would in fact argue that if I have to build a bed, I would sleep on a Google PPT. Uh, yeah. So for me, it's been always Google Slides or presentation or something. Otherwise, for research, there's a bunch of tools that we use. We use Work, we use IBEF, and now we use SurveyMonkey. Bunch of tools, but they keep evolving with time. So yeah.
Correct. So you also need to be, I mean, you need to practice and learn these tools which comes along your way. Uh, let's talk about your creative process now. Where do you get your ideas from?
I wish I knew. I'll be very honest. I and this is a this is a very templatized boilerplate answer that you'll hear from everybody, right? Because
Uh-huh.
nobody knows. I wish I knew, and the day I know, I won't be able to do this anymore, right?
So
So
true.
inspiration can come from anywhere and at any
Mhm.
time, in fact. But for me, if I have to, formalize this answer, I would say it comes at the worst. I mean, 20 minutes before the deadline or after 2 sleepless nights, when you're absolutely hungry and frustrated, that's when I think the body just gives up. Okay, le bhai, leke ja, right? Uh, that's at least to me, that's what's happened so far.
And do you also get creative blocks?
I do, but I tend not to pay attention. I used to, but now I can say I don't. Because even if I go with the confidence that this could be the shittiest work I've done,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still some work. My shittiest version could be the first draft for somebody, right?
Correct.
So
So
I
true.
put in the work. I put in the work, no matter if it's bad work, I put it in, and then I tell whoever I'm presenting that, this is the bare minimum that we've done now, and I would like more time to do this better. But not doing work and thinking you have creative block and just spending time getting out of the block, I think that's a very bad strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any, Aman, any project you're super proud of, or any example you would like to share where you have got your best creative idea from?
Yeah. So early on in my career, I got the chance to pitch and win the Rajasthan Royals account for the agency I worked for. Again, thanks to Pratik for making it happen. Um, so yes, Rajasthan Royals was a crazy project, and the most recent one I would say was Zero Pay, which is a fintech company. So there we did a lot of the remnants of that campaign you can still see in the walls of Bangalore. So it's
Oh, wow.
etched into very unconventional places and unconventional minds.
Wow. Let's talk about more about your author side, because this is my favorite part of the entire interview. How do you manage a full-time job, a 9 to 5, fully covered with a lot of creative ideas? Because it also does require a lot of energy
True.
before and after work as well. And at the same time, you're writing a lot of books altogether. You have recently published a book.
Yeah.
So, would you like to help us understand how do you manage between the two?
So writing stories is almost second nature at this point. And let me tell you, at least for me, I can speak for myself. For me, writing doesn't take much time. Uh, it's a muscle I've built now. So
Okay.
let's say writing 5,000, 6,000 words a day also wouldn't be tiring for me. What's
Wow.
tiring for me is locking the idea in my mind. Right now, the recent book I can give you an example, The Blue Camel, which released on the 24th of February. So that took me almost about 5 years to conceptualize because sometimes the plot wasn't working and sometimes the characters weren't working. Sometimes I thought this is a very stupid project and I shouldn't do it. But then when I finally had the story in my mind and my heart said, okay, let's go for it, it took me 4 days. That's it.
Wow.
It took me 4 days to put down 17,000 words,
Mhm.
171 pages.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you want to also talk about a little bit about your book?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So far, I've been writing about crime and mystery, which happens to be my favorite genre. But this time, I've tried something different. The Blue Camel is a political satire. It's about a government engineered myth called the Blue Camel. And just to distract people. And I think it's absolutely relatable to everybody across the globe right now. So just to distract the masses from the current issues at hand, the government creates a myth. It creates something called the blue camel. But वो लोगों को सच में दिखने लग जाता है.
Oh, wow.
It's a myth according to the government, but
Uh-huh.
people actually start seeing the blue camel. So then what happens? And it's a series of events, almost a satiristic, mocking take on the modern society.
Oh, wow. Anything that inspires you to take a bit and take your writing skills on politics?
Oh yeah, I mean, deeply, aren't we all surrounded by politics? Even the most apolitical of people, uh, set their foot in politics at some point. I mean, regardless of your choice, involuntarily at most, right? Uh, it's like walking in rain. You will step into the puddle no matter how much you avoid, right? It will
I
happen.
definitely agree.
Yeah.
And how do you research about these complex topics, especially corruption and politics and the satire you have built? How do you research about these topics?
So, lucky for me, I write fiction. So all of it is made up nonsense, right? But yeah, for the parts where some factual accuracy is needed, obviously I read a lot, both off work and on work. And it
Mm-hmm.
also helps talking to people who are in that domain. Um, so having good friends and good teachers and subject matter experts who can help
Mm-hmm.
you with factual accuracy, that helps.
And how do you shift between writing fiction at one hand and managing brands at the other hand? Because that's two different worlds. How do you manage that?
Absolutely. So I think with when you write, when you've written, let's say, two chapters of a novel the previous night, and the next day, if you go to work, it just feels like child's play, right? Because yes, and having done this for about 8 to 9 years, I think आपको brief देख के थोड़ा बहुत idea लग जाता है कि okay वो क्या कर सकते हैं, and then the mind starts its own hard work. How can I make this better? But if you do this often and if you do this for long enough, you get a sense of every brief, like okay, this is where it can go. So switching is not a problem. Even delivering on time is not a problem. I think the problem, more rather a challenge, would be how can you up the quality of your work every time and every day.
Correct. And has the reader feedback shaped your writing? Has it improved?
Yes, it has done more damage to my happiness than anything else. So when you get good reviews, obviously, I mean, that happiness it comes with an expiry date. You can be happy for 2 days max. But when
Hmm.
somebody tells you a book is shit, or you've done a shitty campaign, so that kind of stays with you for the rest of your life.
It
So
does.
I take feedback very, very seriously, and regardless of where it comes from, because my goal is to reach as many readers as possible, and I feel that every feedback reflects a larger set of people, a larger set of values. So good feedback doesn't really matter. Bad feedback harms a lot. Yeah.
It does. It does. What about your toughest book so far, and why is it so tough? If you can just elaborate and talk about your other books.
So I think in terms of putting it together, I would really place the Blue Camel at the very top, because it's not very easy to first of all write and then get people to read something that doesn't concern them as much.
True.
So that would be Blue Camel would be definitely a very difficult project for me, and because it took 5 to 6 years to conceptualize, I think it's a labor of love. Yeah.
And how about your other book? Can you just help us understand about those books as well, so that we are curious to read them as
Yeah,
curious about
definitely.
the Blue Camel?
Definitely. So I started off, my first book was The Naked Highway, and the second one was Loyal Lela. I would strongly recommend you guys not to read them at all. They're very badly written, poorly written books. Uh, and rightly so, because they were my first attempts at writing. But after that, I
Mhm.
think the Pluto file is a sci-fi project that I did. It's about antimatter, and it's about the first man-made atom.
Mhm.
So some science enthusiasts or space enthusiasts would love it and have loved it. The book that's the most precious to my heart is Bata Batata. It's about a little kid called Subbu, जिसके मंदिर के बाहर से चप्पल चोरी हो जाते हैं, शूज चोरी हो जाते हैं, और वो
Uh-huh.
पूरा शहर घूमता है अपने शूज को ढूंढने में. So
Okay.
it's a commentary on how the world works from the eyes of a 6-year-old kid.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and obviously the fifth one is the Blue Camel, which I'm very excited to hear feedback for.
Beautiful. I am definitely going to read it.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of people who are watching this are also as excited as I am. My last question is going to be an advice. Any tips for students who want to write and work full time in corporate?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, I'll give you the most realist advice that I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
You will never be a perfect writer, ever, right? You will be a perfect writer after you're dead. All the great writers that you see today, it could be Hunter S. Thompson, Charles Bukowski, right? All these great guys are great because they're dead. So don't chase perfection with any creative project at all. Don't get close to it. Don't let it in your bed. Never. Make sure on technical grounds you have done a great job. And it's an evolution. Writing skill is an evolution. So it will take time, right? If you get, let's say, negative feedback or no response on any of it shouldn't concern you. Your concern should be how technically correct I can get with my writing. And you have to write. And for that to happen, you have to write every day. And every day means periodically, आपको लिखते रहना चाहिए. आपको नई नई चीजें सीखती रहनी चाहिए. You have to observe more things. And then something will happen, and that nobody knows how. Your book might work, your song might work, your film might work, or even your little speech might work. But for it to work, you'll have to work every day.
Aman, this was such an insightful conversation, from breaking into branding to writing books. That leaves an impact, to be honest. My key takeaways, correct me if I'm wrong. Creativity, as per you, is a skill that you can build, and storytelling is everywhere. And of course, you are balancing your passion with profession, so that, of course, it is possible. And you would advise people to do that because you love doing that. And as you have shared already, that your passion for creativity is reflected both in your books
Yes.
and in your 9 to 5, of course.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Aman, for sharing your journey with us. Thank you so much. This was very insightful. I personally loved it, and I'm going to read all of your books after this.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. These were really fantastic questions. I think this I understood a lot about myself while answering these questions. So it's a revelation to me also. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. To all of our listeners, if you found this valuable, drop a comment, like, share, and share this episode with your friends, with your relatives. And don't forget to read The Blue Camel and subscribe to the Expert Matters for more career insights. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and go tell your own story like Aman has. Thank you so much.
Thank you.